Dan Willis, good to be with you, man.
That's me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for joining us. You're a British-born comedian based here in Australia. Originally born in Yorkshire, then you moved to Newcastle. But you call Australia home. We claim you.
What are you, some sort of homeland immigration?
That's exactly right. You've paid your taxes.
Let's not push it that far.
No, yeah, exactly. Let's get you deported. No, it's good to be with you, man. And I want to jump straight into the controversial stuff by asking, was your name at birth Dan Hull?
It was indeed.
Is that the truth? It's not like a hack on Wikipedia?
No. That's the truth. Hull, which I got to say, as a surname, is an absolute pig of a surname to have.
Why is that?
Hell, Hill, Hole. Yeah, there's you never get Hull. So it's like now I just say Willis, which is easy enough, and I took it from What You Talking About, Willis, from a program called Different Strokes. Which
it was from Different Strokes.
It was indeed, and you weren't born when Different Strokes was out.
I wasn't, but I did my research in the black and white. It was good to catch up on it. But yeah, what You Talking About, Willis, Different Strokes, the American sitcom.
Yeah,
that's where you pulled it from.
That's where I pulled it. Gary Coleman, and he's dead. There we go.
Rest in peace to him, I guess. So you get this name. So you're born Dan Hull. You've earned 2 degrees at Liverpool University, computer sciences, American history, and that brings me to your fascination with American culture. It seems like you have one. You got the Different Strokes on the go.
Let's not say fascination.
Yeah,
I
that
like
sounds
America.
a bit perverted, doesn't it?
I like
Yeah,
America. There's some funny comedians, some great places. In all honesty, I started doing an American history degree because as part of that degree, you got to spend a year in America.
There it is.
And that was the only reason I did that degree. And I ended up changing it to IT halfway through. And so I ended up with IT and American history. And then I got a job in IT. So I guess, I was never going to be a historian.
So you're doing 10 years in IT, 10 years in that world, sort of like the Ricky Gervais path, if you will, spending in the office, cutting your teeth, cracking jokes around the office. What was that sort of like?
I don't think I was the funniest in the office.
Right, okay.
There were other people. I was certainly...
Sandy from accounts was a crusher?
Yeah, it was just City of London, working hard and working... I saved the bloody world. I did 2 years of Year 2000 changes. Thank you very much.
Right, you prevented Y2K.
I did indeed.
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much.
I prevented some insurance companies from losing a bit of money. That's what I did.
You're doing God's work, Dan.
I believe I was.
Yeah.
I was. And I spent the money on the church, which is crucial.
Beautiful. Keeping it...
Just checking. No, I didn't spend a penny on the church.
Keeping it pure between you and the Lord. But when do you eventually transition into stand-up comedy? I mean, when is the first time that you get inspired to do it? I took note that in 2001 you went to the Edinburgh Festival and you watched...
I did.
Endless shows.
It's quite easy because I've been asked this question quite a few times. Are you a comic as well?
Some would say.
How did you do your first gig?
I got laughs, but in hindsight, horrendous.
Okay, so it's what brings you to that. What happened with me was I just loved comedy. I went to see it on about my 27th birthday, and we went to a comedy club at the Banana Cabaret, and it was amazing. I then got addicted to it. I was going every weekend, which... Actually, I'm not with the woman I was with at the time, but she got very sick of it very fast. Salute you, Sandra. And I just want to do that all the time. And then I entered a competition to be on the Perrier panel at the Edinburgh Comedy Awards, and I walked it. I just went. They rang me, took me in for an interview, and they offered me the job on the day. They were like, "There's no point interviewing anyone else. You've got it." And so they paid for me to go to Edinburgh, and I went to see... I'm going to say about 98 shows in 3 weeks. And I got to say about 72 of them were awful.
Great.
I mean awful. I'm trying not to swear because I'm thinking, hey, I don't want to get a YouTube strike on it. But I didn't mind that. I was watching them thinking they're putting the heart and soul into it. And then at the end of the day, I thought, well, I could be that crap, right? I could be, what's it going to take? So then when I got back to London, started going to open mics, just watching. And it took me about 2 months to build up the courage to do it. And when I did my first one, a guy called Russell Howard was emceeing.
Oh, I know him well.
And he now plays arenas. And there was about 12 people in the room. I did 3 minutes. I think it went well. I looked at the floor through the entire experience. And then you just got to keep going. And
keep grinding away.
Died on my hole in front of all my friends on my 4th gig. And I was confident I was going to be good at that, and you just keep going, pick yourself up, work hard. And 22 years later, you could be me, right? I mean,
There it is.
look at this fine. And do you know what? I know no one, if anyone is watching this, no one knows who the hell I am, right?
Well, that's because they're looking up Dan Hull. They're like, where's Dan? What are we doing here? Dan Hull, comedian.
Oh, yeah. Dan Hull.
They're getting lost in the webs. No, that's good to know. And I want to circle back to what you said about the fourth gig you bring your friends to. A lot of comics, you'd be surprised. In the early days, it's the first gig they're bringing their friends to. They're that confident. But you took 3 gigs, getting some laughs, getting some momentum before you invited them to the Hell gig. Tell me about it. What happened?
Oh, it was just it was a perfectly good gig. There was nothing wrong with it, apart from me. And I went on and I was overconfident because I'd done 3 gigs that I'd used the same material at, and they'd went okay. I'm certainly not going to claim I blew the doors off or anything like that, but they went okay, you know. And then I thought, right, I've got this, and I went on, and it was just horrendous. I can probably remember nearly every word I said because it was just, and the look of disappointment on my friends' faces because they get embarrassed for you.
Of course.
Right now, I'm not above a death now. I tend not to. I say 99 out of 100 I'm going to do fine at, but that 1 in 100. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I can die for an hour, and I really don't care. It's all a skill, you know. I mean, I've been on stage. I went to see Chris Rock, probably one of my favourite comedians, and he didn't have a good gig in Melbourne. You know, and there's 3,000 people there not really getting him. And he did okay, got through it. But, you know, no one's above struggling.
Yes, of course.
You know?
But you can die with the best of them, Dan Willis.
Oh, yeah. I got some great advice from an actor I'm bringing across from the UK this year called Mick Ferry. I died on my hole in the easy spot in the middle at the Frog and Bucket, full paid spot. You know, it wasn't an open spot. And he said, you should have taken some of the twats with you, Dan. Go down in flames rather than just in a whimper, you know? Cause
right, okay.
It was like someone shouted out something. I handled it politely and moved on. And he's like, you should have eaten him alive. You should have got out there. And Mick gave me a really good prep talk the next day because I died on the Friday and I had to go back and do the Saturday as well. And he says, first of all, don't tell them you're from Newcastle because this is in Manchester, right?
Instantly against you.
No, because I don't sound like I'm from Newcastle. I should sound like Alan Shearer or Ross Noble. I should be like, how are you doing? I've got a monkey on my shoulder, like it's absolutely bloody brilliant. And I don't because my dad's from Yorkshire, my mum's from Newcastle. There's a bit of a mix. And Mick goes, don't tell them you're from Newcastle. Just start doing jokes. They'll think you're Irish, right? And I did that the next day. Same jokes, word for word. Blew the doors off, had a great gig. Walked off, and some guy just walked up and he was like, oh, what part of Ireland are you from? And I'm like, Mick, you're a genius. You're a genius.
It's such a strange thing about the craft. I mean, there's so many technical aspects, even outside the comedy, the material. It's just sort of the psychological aspects of a room that some people can educate on.
Completely, and it's all about learning. I mean, this room that we're in is one of the easiest rooms in the country, as long as you treat it correctly. Don't go on expecting to do well or anything like that. You just got to play to the back of the room, look the light straight in the face, do your jokes, look confident, and you'll be all right. And then you turn up to I got good at the crap rooms, and I'm a big believer. If you can go on to 8 people and you stood on a beer crate and they're not particularly interested, but you manage to pull them round, if you get good at them, the big rooms are easy.
Yes.
Because you've got used to those crap rooms. I did a week at the Comedy Store Sydney once, and it's the easiest room on the planet. And there was one night where it went a bit tits up, and there's 400 people, and I was like, I'm used to this. There's no problem here. And I went on and did fine. And then the acts are all moaning, oh, the crowd shit. And I'm like, well, they laughed at me, and they laughed at her, and they laughed at him. The other 3 of you, the common denominator is yourself.
Of course, you got to adjust.
Yeah.
So what's 22 years in the business? You mentioned the likes of Russell Howard in your early gigs. Who were some of the early comedians that inspired you early on that you really liked? Who were some of the comics that you saw on the telly or anything like that you really looked up to?
I'm casting my mind back. I mean, nowadays I love Ricky Gervais, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle. I mean, they're classics that back when I started, and he is a genius, well, was a genius. Bill Hicks is what everybody was talking about. Now, I like Bill Hicks, but he didn't motivate me to be a comedian. I just enjoyed his stuff. Someone like Frank Skinner in the UK, who to this day has some of the best observation. Have you even heard of Frank Skinner?
I have heard of him. I haven't seen any of his stuff, but I have heard that name thrown around.
He's got some great. I mean, he's got this great way of just like. I saw him on tour, and he did this thing. He goes, "Oh, it's really hard writing observational material when you're rich and famous."
That's good.
Because you lot aren't, you know. And he goes, I can't say, oh, you know what it's like when you're ushering a woman out of your hotel room in the morning,
Yes.
and she turns around, picks up the used condom, and goes, "Would you sign this?" I didn't. I didn't want to get shit on my pen.
Oh, Jesus. This is a Frank Skinner bit, isn't it?
Yeah, I love
great.
it. That's something I love. And I can watch him to this day. And even when I've read his autobiographies, he says how, you know, when he compares himself to keeping up with new comedians, he doesn't find it easy to keep up because he came out of a pool of about 50 comedians out of London, and now in London there'd be maybe 500 comedians, all vying for the same gigs.
And we're in a boom right now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. It's always just going to keep going because it's a good, fun job, and there's more and more money available to it from handsome young YouTubers like yourself.
YouTube is so good.
Grizzly old twats like me. So I think it's always going to be booming. I can't imagine, even through COVID, people were doing stuff online, and we've been through massive recessions in the UK, and people are still wanting a laugh, you know. So it is a great job.
An evergreen job is.
You can't go wrong. Us and the mafia. They're the only people.
Us and the mob, is it?
Yeah, we don't get affected by recessions.
Some say people are doing both. You mentioned a few greats, and there's so many different styles, so many ways to do the thing. What, in your opinion, is a consistent quality amongst the greats? What do you think every comic, regardless of style, that is good has?
Well, I think the best advice I got, I think it was someone, I was reading it wasn't given to me directly, I was reading it in a book by, funny enough, Frank Skinner's best friend called David Baddiel, and he said, just don't look at the floor, don't look at the ceiling, and only talk about what you find funny. And I think the best people, like I've already mentioned, Chris Rock, Chappelle, Ricky Gervais, you can tell they're not talking about anything they don't find funny. They're not going on and thinking, oh, what I've got to do today is discuss Donald Trump or the bushfires, or I've got to address this or I've got to address that. If they think something's funny, they go on and discuss it, talk about it. And comedy's not for everybody. So there's a comedian for someone out there so I accept that. I do not find some people funny, but they're successful. And I'll probably book them when I run gigs. I'll probably book comics I don't like, knowing that the crowd will.
Yeah, that's great advice. What was it? So what's that again? Was the do what only you find funny?
Yeah, only talk about what you find funny.
Great.
Otherwise, you can't sell it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Nothing more painful than trying to sell a bit that you didn't find funny in the first place, and then it's not well received. You're like, I knew it.
I know.
I'm a fraud.
Crazy. It's like doing other people's jokes. I mean, the very few comics won't have at some point accidentally done something that someone else has written. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But if you do someone's routines, that's when you can't find that as funny. You're just rattling out words. So I really find that Frank Skinner routine funny, but I don't do it on stage. I'll put a Frank Skinner voice on and tell people the joke and tell them it was Frank Skinner. You know?
Yeah, of course. Play some homage. You're born in Yorkshire. You moved to Newcastle. Now, we know that there's so many beautiful variations of the English accent, so many different ways to do the thing, just like comedy. But I've put together 10 Yorkshirean words or statements that translate to something else, and I want to see...
You have been busy on Google this afternoon.
Oh, I've been going hard. Yes, ChatGPT's gotten quite the workout. No, I want to see if you're up to scratch, and if you're not, that's absolutely fine, Dan.
No,
because
believe
these are ridiculous.
Destroy
these are
me.
absurd.
Carry on.
We're going to go through 10 words or sayings in Yorkshirean and see if you can translate them for me. What is chuddy?
Chuddy, I have no idea. But I'm going to guess chewing gum.
It is chewing gum. Why would you guess chewing gum? That's fantastic. Chuddy, I don't connect the dots at all.
Yeah, chud. Here's a chuddy.
Bit of chuddy.
Bit of chuddy. Aye.
There's a bit of the Yorkshirean coming through there. All right, number 2. If someone is beefing, what are they doing?
Arguing, I'd guess, or fighting.
No, that's what I thought, but it's actually crying.
Crying.
Stop your beefing.
Stop your beefing.
That was Irish. I apologize.
That was Irish.
I do, but you were Irish, so that's
Carry on with your Google constructed Yorkshire phrases I've never heard of.
What about if someone is black bright? What does that mean?
Black bright. Genuinely never heard that. And do you know what? When I say I was raised in Newcastle, I spent plenty of time in Yorkshire.
Right, okay.
My dad's Yorkshire, born and bred. My gran and granddad, born and bred. My uncle, born and bred. Black
you can text
bright.
him. You can phone a friend if you like. If it's who wants to be a millionaire.
What, this time of the day in Britain, really? Let's call them. 4 o'clock in the morning.
On, is it? I apologise.
All right, Dad, how are you doing? Brilliant. What's black bright?
Apparently, it means they're very dirty, which I think is quite spicy in this woke times. Butty.
That's a sandwich.
Butty is a sandwich,
Yeah.
correct. Crate egg. If something is crate egg, what are they saying that is?
You're making stuff up now.
I wish I was. I wish I could call the mayor of Yorkshire. Apparently, crate egg is inferior.
Inferior. Crate egg. No.
Now, if someone's referring to the dog shelf, what are they talking about?
No idea. Look at this. My granny used to say, you can't teach your granny how to suck eggs, right? What that? And I didn't know what that meant as a kid. I was like, if I was doing something obvious, I'd say, "Oh, granny," and she'd go, "Well, you can't teach your granny how to suck eggs." Who the fuck's sucking eggs? Who's sucking eggs?
You couldn't pay me to watch a granny suck an egg.
Oh, I'm sure
Maybe
I could.
You could actually.
Yeah.
You probably could. Apparently, dog shelf is the floor. Flags. Any idea they're referring to flags? Out on go walk on the
I
flags.
feel like I'm the worst Yorkshireman on
Possibly.
the planet.
But again, bear in mind
I
these
will
are
say
ridiculous things.
ear gum. There you go. That'll get me a bit of Yorkshire.
What's that?
Oh, it's just ear gum. It's like bloody hell.
Earbar gum is bloody hell.
Ish. Yeah.
The flags is pavement. Guff.
That's a fart, surely.
Guff is a fart.
There we
Correct. Someone says, "Where's me kegs?"
That's your pants.
The kegs are the pants. And this is my favourite one that I came across. Put wood into hole. What are they referring to?
Well, I'm guessing sex.
You would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Put wood into hole is not a sexual request. It means close the door.
Close the door.
No, close the door.
Shut the door.
You wouldn't want your dad yelling out to put wood in the hole
Put wood in the hole.
and misconstrue it, would you?
Well, I don't
in
know.
a quiet Yorkshirean
My dad's
town.
onto his third marriage now, so I'm sure there's plenty of holes had wood put into it.
Beautiful. Well, listen, Dan, it's been a pleasure to briefly catch up, my friend. What can the people find you on? What do you want to plug, promote? Is there anything they can?
Just go see Best of British, which is my show. That's pretty much it, really.
Best of British in Fringe?
At some point, I'll get my social account back. Instagram securityed me out 2 years ago, and I yet to respond to any of my attempts to get it reactivated. So it's allowed me to be lazy. You can't go wrong.
There's only so long they can keep a good man down. But Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you, buddy.
Pleasure.